mimicry of what? Molecular mimicry of what?
M protein.
Which antigen? The M protein. Okay. There is this Streptococcus M protein mimics the renal M protein. So there is basically type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. And there are different theories. I think we have not done pathophysiology, right? We were just discussing. So there can be other cause like bacterial, viral, fungal and parasitic also, and because of this reason, it is also denoted as post-infectious glomerulonephritis. So there are different theory for the mechanism why and how this immune complex deposited. First theory is that the body responds to the nephrogenic strains of Streptococcus, group A beta hemolytic Streptococcus, and there is formation of immune complex containing streptococcal antigen with a human antibody. The antibody is formed by our body against Streptococcus. Yes, and that antibody auto reacts with our self antigen only. Other theories, the immunocomplex become deposited in kidney reaching through circulation, means the antibody is formed in the circulation and it is trapped in glomeruli. While some claims that the formation of antibody and the complex, everything occurs within the kidney glomeruli. But in my opinion, the first theory is more reliable because streptococcal infection occurs in pharynx that goes in circulation. Okay, and there is formation of antibodies, and from the circulation the antibodies can go to kidney and trap into kidney glomeruli, forming the antigen antibody complex. But there are different other opinions also. And according to some other theories, there is due to an antibody reaction against glomerular components because of the cross reaction with streptococcal antigen due to molecular mimicry. So pathogenesis is frequently asked question. So you must know it is an immunological reaction, type 3 reaction, there is formation of immune complex. And what does immune complex do? How is the genesis of glomerulonephritis? So immune complex, after getting deposited in the glomeruli or glomerular basement membrane, they activate the alternate complement pathway. So what will happen? There is infiltration of leukocytes. There is proliferation of mesangial cells. If you remember in last class, we talked about there are only 1 to 2 cells in the mesangium. There are 2 cells per capillaries, isn't it? So there is hypercellularity because this type of nephritis is proliferative nephritis. We also alternatively call proliferative nephritis. Okay, so there is increased number of cells in the mesangium and in the glomerulus. So there is overall the permeability of the capillary and the perfusion of the capillary is altered. Okay, so what will happen? There is effect on what is the main function of these nephrons? Glomerular filtration. So GFR is altered. If GFR is reduced, patient may go into the renal failure. Plus, there can be acid-base imbalance because kidney is responsible for maintaining the acid-base balance, electrolyte balance, volume. These are the primary functions of kidney which are altered. Renin-angiotensin mechanism will be altered and there will be hypertension along with effect of the volume. So this is same thing, same text is kept in a flow chart. Okay, so you see immune complexes are deposited. Because of that, there is activation of the alternate complement pathway, and this complement pathway causes infiltration of leukocyte mesangial proliferation within the glomerulus. So there is impaired capillary perfusion and altered GFR. Reduction in GFR can lead to either the symptoms of nephritic and occasionally nephrotic. At the end, if the things are not controlled, patient may go into renal failure, which will present with oliguria or anuria. There can be acid-base imbalance, electrolyte abnormalities, volume overload, edema, and hypertension. Now coming to clinical feature, the patient presents with the triad. The glomerulonephritis mostly present with the triad of edema. The edema is more prominent in the periorbital area than the ankle edema. If you see in the cardiac causes, the edema were more in the ankle, isn't it? You remember the heart failure and all? Yeah. So here the edema is more of facial. So hematuria, hypertension, edema, these are the main clinical feature apart from the feature of renal failure, that is oliguria and anuria. So this is important clinical trial. And if we evaluate, normally we don't do histopathological evaluation, we don't take biopsy for PSGN, we manage the patient conservatively, but we sometimes there are certain indications of biopsy in which we just take core biopsy, needle biopsy. We don't take out kidney or something like that. We just take, just like bone marrow biopsy, we do a core biopsy of the kidney. So what will we see in light microscopy? Light microscopy means the usual microscopy we do in lab. The glomeruli may basically show hypercellularity. This is proliferative glomerulonephritis, this PSCN. So in proliferative glomerulonephritis, there is proliferation of cells, there is thickness of basement membrane, there is hypercellularity. So here there is non-specific type of hypercellularity. Means leukocytes as well as mesangium, endothelium, everything is getting proliferated. The interesting thing is electron microscopic finding, which we ask you in MCQ and even in the theory, that in electron microscopy, most characteristic finding is presence of electron dense deposits in the subepithelial space. Electron dense. Under electron microscope, we find dense subdeposits in the subepithelial space, and we call it subepithelial humps along the basement membrane. Alright, and in immunofluorescence microscopy, so basically all these electron and immunofluorescence microscopy are mostly used in renal pathology than any other pathology, because lots of immunological pathologies are there in kidney. So what do we see? We see one, we need to see the antibody or antigen antibody complex, basically antibody, or we have to see the complement, because complement is getting activated and deposited, and there is hypocomplementemia in the blood. So what do we see under immunofluorescence is deposition of IgG, immunoglobulin G, and C3 fragment of the complement, and that too in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the disease, in the initial phase of the disease. Now, how do we evaluate the patient? Well, in your curriculum, limited things are there, okay? But to correlate the history, to correlate the examination, you are asked from anywhere, because this, and you will be studying in your clinicals, you will be studying in your basics, in post MBBS life, whatever your specialty is, so you should be aware of. So I have just gone schematically. Okay, so how will we evaluate the patient? So here the first, let's see the demographic. Males are more common than females with 2:1 ratio. It is disease basically of the children, kids. Okay, because this pharyngitis and sore throat and impetigo kind of things are more common in children. The nephrogenic strains are more. Streptococcal infection has affinity for children. At the same time, it is also common in elderly people more than 60 years of old who has got comorbidities like diabetes and any immunosuppression. And most of the cases of PSCN is recorded from the underprivileged country. Previously it was global, but in the developed country the incidence has reduced a lot. So mostly we see it in the underprivileged countries, maybe because of the poor hygiene, sanitation, crowding, lack of treatment, lack of consciousness about this URTI, upper respiratory tract infections. So how will you evaluate the patient? We take history, we do physical examination, we do lab investigations. So in history, typically the patient will give a recent history of streptococcal infection, or may have a culture report of group A beta hemolytic streptococcus. Okay, the infection may be pharyngitis or tonsillitis or any kind of upper respiratory tract infection or a skin infection. Clinically, why patient came just now to attend a physician? with the past history, because patient is presenting with the gross hematuria, the urine is red, or the patient typically describes not the fresh red, not the fresh blood, the blood is altered, so patient describes it as a smoky, tea colored, black tea colored, or cola colored, or rusty. Okay, the urine is typically described as cola colored. So these are also frequently asked question. I have bold the letters. Okay, so you see this is the urine, just it looks like the light black tea, milkless tea, isn't it? So this is gross hematuria, and the hematuria is usually painless here. Okay, now what is hematuria? Hematuria is presence of blood in the urine. The hematuria can be gross hematuria or microscopic hematuria. Gross hematuria is called as macrohematuria, and microscopic hematuria is called as microhematuria. So gross hematuria can be painful or painless. Here it is usually painless, and it is result of inflammation of kidney. Sometimes hematuria we see in the association with calculi, renal calculi, which erodes the renal parenchyma and the blood vessels, and there is hematuria, or we can see with the tumor also. Painless hematuria is also typically present in the tuberculous infection, tuberculous inflammation of the kidney. Okay, so if the amount of RBC are large or more than the blood, the urine will show macrohematuria or gross hematuria, and urine will appear smoky or cola colored. If the amount is less, we just detect few RBC in microscopic examination, so it is called as microscopic hematuria. What are the other clinical features? Patient will present with oliguria, okay, which is not seen in all the cases, but in most of the cases. And yes, of course, the edema. The edema is first and prominent sign, which mostly appears, starts with the puffiness of the eyelids, periorbital edema. So if you see periorbital edema in any children, and children often get URTI, so in your family relation, in your patient, everywhere, just evaluate the patient for PSCN, because the severity of PSCN can be mild to severe. Okay, not all the patient will come to emergency with a very severe presentation. It may go underdiagnosed and may patient succumb ultimately to renal failure at the end. So mostly this edema periorbital means around the eyes, okay, and is prominent in the morning, and by the day it gets settled down. Okay, and in very severe conditions, the symptoms can be symptoms of anuric renal failure. There is no urine, there is life-threatening acid-base imbalance, there is electrolyte abnormalities. What do you understand by electrolytes? These are the minerals, basically sodium and potassium, that is present in the blood. So there is increased amount of potassium, which can be life-threatening from the point of view of heart. Okay, cardiac arrest can occur in the hyperkalemic condition. Increased serum level of potassium is known as hyperkalemia. Increased serum level of sodium is known as hypernatremia. Okay, and along with that, there can be fluid overload. So you can see the slide of this picture, facial puffiness. So here you can see the typical facial puffiness. The elderly, more than 60, with some comorbidities, and typically presenting with the periorbital edema and this cola colored urine, okay, with the recent history of skin or throat infection. And other clinical features included decreased urine volume, that is oliguria. There can be some abdominal pain, diarrhea, cough, general illness, like the patient is not feeling very well. There can be fever, joint aches, muscle aches, shortness of breath, loss of appetite. But these are non-specific clinical features. Very specifically, as I said earlier, there will be history of recent infection of throat or skin, gross hematuria with cola colored or tea colored urine, okay, less urinary output, that is oliguria, and edema. These are the important clinical features. And because the patient mostly present with nephritic syndrome, in nephritic syndrome there is hypertension, isn't it? So hypertension can be seen in 50% of the individual. Other non-specific symptoms, just I said in this lady, so they can also be present, like low-grade fever, malaise, body ache, joint ache, etc. Now, most important portion is lab evaluation. We just evaluated the patient from. So first, we have to determine the preceding streptococcal infection or not. First, because the most common cause is group A beta hemolytic streptococcus. In some other case, in infectious glomerulonephritis, we also need to determine whether some other organism are involved or not. So first foremost test we do is ASO titer. ASO titer, anti-streptolysin O. You must be taught in your microbiology how the streptococcus do pathogenesis. Is it taught?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So it is of very much importance, and we determine anti-streptolysin titer in the laboratory. Apart from that, there are anti-NAD, anti-nicotinamide, and anti-DNase, but most specific routine practices to determine anti-streptolysin titer is the most frequent used test, while the most sensitive test is streptozyme test, which is not available in all the laboratories, and this streptozyme test measures all those antibodies which we just discussed, like anti-DNase, anti-hyaluronidase, isn't it? Okay. Now, what is the pitfall of this? ASO titer can be falsely low in patient who is treated with antibiotics, and we think some other organism or some other infection has occurred, but actually the patient is treated with the antibiotics. This consumption of complement factor. The complement factors are used in the process of. I hope you are aware of complement system. It is taught in physiology as well as pathology in your first years. So, because C3 has a lot role in this activation in the lab, in the serum, it will be low. Okay, because it is now other biochemical increase we do serum creatinine, which can be increased, and electrolyte there is either increase or decrease, like sodium or potassium. Then urine analysis. Whenever there is hematuria, we can see the urine is also grossly there is hematuria. If we do microscopy, we see cast. Cast means here we are talking about RBC cast. Cast means the shape of the tubule. The RBC they are, you know, for the cast, the orthopedic cast and all, they take shape of the body, isn't it? Similarly, this RBC cast takes shape of the tubules, renal tubules, hyaline cast, cellular cast in the urine analysis, but because it RBC cast is frequent. So renal function test, blood urea nitrogen, serum creatinine, all are elevated. This value return to normal. We can also do imaging, and we see in some of the patient kidneys are tighter, which is for most important, than whether the person is in renal failure or not. So we will do renal profile, renal function test, that is blood urea, serum creatinine, electrolytes, the sodium, potassium. Blood increased level of blood urea nitrogen is called as azotemia. Patient is in azotemia or not. All right. So we will evaluate, and ultimately we have to manage. So far it is pharmacological portion, but still I am just nephritis, so antihypertensive medications. Sometimes because it is immune disease, immunologically mediated disease, there is accumulation of immune complexes. And if the person is in renal failure, we need to do urgent and consistent dialysis. And sometimes the patient warrant the need of renal transplantation if there is renal significant patient recovered themselves within 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, but some need hospitalization and long the series of therapies, pharmacological and some of the patient with comorbid disease have there is rate of death showing all those antigens, okay, plasmin antigens again, and the plasminogens, where plasma protein mostly in the case of URTI and Streptococcus viri group A pathogens. But for your level, you must mention that it is beta hemolytic group A Streptococcus, which is mostly responsible for post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, PSGN. Many of the students say group B alpha hemolyticus. No, it is beta. Okay, depending upon the skin or throat infection. 1 to 3 weeks gap from pharyngitis and up to 6 weeks gap from impetigo. The urine will, the patient will show gross hematuria and urine will be described as cola color, smoky or tea color. This is frequently asked. What is the patient will present with the features of hematuria, nephrotic syndrome. So in other investigation, the ASO will be high, complement will be low, there will be RBC cast, there are proteins in the urine analysis, there can be increased blood urea nitrogen and serum creatinine. We see proliferative nephritis. There is proliferation of mesenchymal humps. All right. So we will also see immune complex deposition IgG and reduced complement 3. The patient is presenting with nephrotic syndrome or nephritic syndrome, cola colored urine. There will be nephrotic, mostly the generalized edema occurs. Hematuria may not be present and fatty cast are seen. So that's it about post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Any question here?
Ma'am, the nephrotic and nephritic syndrome.
It is not discussed in the previous kidney lectures. All right, we will have a separate discussion of nephrotic and nephritic syndrome. But for now I just tabulated few of the level of proteinuria, what is the level of urine cast, and we have to see all these, but we will discuss the difference of nephrotic and nephritic syndrome properly in a separate lecture. Okay. So what do we see? Mostly the nephrotic syndrome has very severe proteinuria, and the range is more than 3.5 grams per day. Nephrotic proteinuria. Even if it is severe like 3.4, 3.3 or 3 is severe, but it is subnephrotic. Okay, so that can be is feature of nephritic. If there is inflammation, there is hematuria. Nephrotic syndrome may not have inflammation. Nephrotic syndrome not truly include the itis. Why? The nephritic syndrome. So it is nephritic syndrome. While the group of diseases like minimal change disease or focal segmental glomerulosclerosis or even membranoproliferative, these are membranous glomerulonephritis are present in nephrotic syndrome. So they are different set of syndromes in which there can be mild inflammation characteristically present with hematuria, subnephrotic proteinuria. Characteristic feature is massive proteinuria. You must note it. Massive proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, and edema. Other feature is hypercholesterolemia. You don't need to mention not essential, but it is plus minus. You can mention as plus minus. So massive proteinuria. Then because of proteinuria there is hypoalbuminemia. You can go in flow chart, so that is easy to remember. Massive proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, edema, and hypercholesterolemia. Inside of nephritic syndrome, the main pathology is nephritis. So you have to mention hematuria. First is hematuria. Second is renal impairment that is present with the oliguria. Then there is hypertension and mild edema. So because there is mild edema, you can correlate that there must be mild proteinuria. So proteinuria is not a prominent feature of nephritic, while it is essential feature of nephrotic. Proteinuria, massive proteinuria has to be there in nephrotic, while renal impairment, severe renal impairment presentation has to be there. In both there is renal impairment, but frankly the presentation is there in nephritic syndrome. Like there is oliguria, there is azotemia, there is hematuria. These are the features of renal pathology. Then what is the mechanism? As I said, the prototype of the nephritic syndrome, the post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, there is immunological disorder. Okay, there is either immune complex deposition in the basement membrane, or there is primary antibody formed against the basement membrane. Here in PSTN, immune complex is getting deposited in the mesangium and along the basement membrane or near the basement membrane, glomerular basement membrane, GBM. Okay. In some cases, there is formation of anti-basement membrane antibodies. So it is an immunological mechanism that causes nephritic syndrome. Why? Any kind of inflammation, not necessary that it should be infection or it is immunological. Any kind of inflammation, any renal pathology can cause proteinuria and followed by edema, hypovolemia, hypoalbuminemia, hyperlipidemia. This can lead to nephrotic syndrome. Okay, and oncotic pressure is what happens to oncotic pressure here. Where there is more edema, oncotic pressure is low. That R is reduced in nephritic syndrome, and surprisingly, because renal immunity is not that prominent in nephrotic, GFR tends to compensate in nephrotic syndrome. So there is compensatory high GFR. So in the table of GFR, you have to mention that it is mostly low in nephritic, and initially it is high, followed by, if renal impairment is severe, later on it goes low in nephrotic syndrome. There are group of diseases that are included in that we ask also, okay, that we ask very frequently, group of diseases that are included in nephrotic and nephritic syndromes. The prototype of nephritic syndrome is acute post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Other glomerulonephritis, in short we call GN, like in the diseases of SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, or some other diseases. Any glomerulonephritis like SLE or any autoimmune glomerulonephritis, and in the context of acute tubular necrosis, ATN, or rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, or some other cause that secondarily involves kidney, like viral infection, parasitic infections, which I also mentioned in the cause of post-infectious glomerulonephritis, isn't it? So all those include nephritic syndrome that can present with hematuria that can directly damage the tubule or cause glomerulonephritis. So they all are included in nephritic syndrome. You can check Robbins. There are tables, there are charts. Similarly, in nephrotic syndrome, a different set of diseases include the prototype is minimal change disease, then membranous glomerulonephritis, okay, the systemic vasculitis, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, diabetic glomerulosclerosis, amyloidosis, some drug-induced glomerulopathies, sarcoidosis, the renal impairment following heart failure or pericarditis. These all include the nephrotic syndrome. So basically, all the inflammatory disease of kidney either present with nephritic or nephrotic. We have to categorize depending upon the symptoms and the cause. They are divided in primary and secondary diseases. All these glomerulonephritis, glomerulopathies are primary, while the systemic diseases that secondarily affects like diabetes or SLE, they are the secondary. And now here you see edema regarding nephrotic and nephritic syndrome. Because the proteinuria is mild in nephritic, edema will also be mild. The right side of the chart is nephritic and the left side of the chart is nephrotic. So mild edema occurs in nephritic syndrome, while the edema is very massive in nephrotic syndrome. Why? There is increased hydrostatic pressure and there is decreased oncotic pressure. You must mention these two terms: increased hydrostatic and decreased oncotic pressure. Okay. So what does this oncotic and hydrostatic pressure do? There is fluid returning to the circulation because of hypoproteinemia. Okay. There is hypovolemia and accumulation of fluid in the volume. Means hypovolemia means blood volume is reduced while interstitial volume is increased. Where physiology particular chapter, it is very nicely given, or even in Mahapatra, if you study that book, very nicely given in Mahapatra. So hydrostatic and oncotic pressure imbalance, okay, the blood volume is reduced, there is lesser volume, while the interstitial, in the interstitium there is large amount of volume accumulated, so there is massive edema to generalized edema that is called anasarca. Basically, there is more periorbital edema just like nephritic syndrome, and Then there is progression from head to toe, the day passing that occurs in nephritic. Okay. Then BP, usually hypertension is not a feature of nephrotic syndrome because there is hypovolemia, while the volume is high in nephritic syndrome. Okay. Why nephritic syndrome? Because kidney is directly involved and there is increased renin secretion. Because of the low perfusion, there is hyperperfusion, no? Because of the immune complex, renal perfusion is reduced. So when renal perfusion is reduced, renin angiotensin mechanism will sense that there will be increased renin, increased angiotensin secretion, and there is more volume. So there is hypertension. Okay. While hypertension is not a feature of nephrotic syndrome. Secondarily anything can happen. But we are talking about primary, so just say yes or no. No hypertension in nephrotic syndrome. Okay. And because of hypertension and hypervolemia, the neck veins and jugular venous pressure are also increased in nephritic syndrome. And then cholesterol, hypercholesteremia, hyperlipidemia, and lipiduria are noted in the nephrotic syndrome. Now, basic, there are so many things we mentioned, so many things we discussed. Basically, you need to remember massive proteinuria in nephrotic syndrome, mild proteinuria in nephritic syndrome. Okay. All right. Massive edema in nephrotic, mild to moderate edema in nephritic. All right. No hypertension in nephrotic, hypertension present in nephritic. Yes. Hyperlipidemia in nephrotic, no hyperlipidemia in nephritic. Lipiduria in nephrotic, no lipiduria in nephritic. Similarly, no hematuria in nephrotic, hematuria present in nephritic. You have to mention the important topics. All right. Then the biochemistry, this is a downloaded chart. So it has mentioned so many things, but I don't know you will remember or not. So I'm again and again trying to, if you present more points, of course you are benefited with more marks. Okay. So I'm telling you again and again, in nephritic syndrome, there is primary renal impairment. Basically, glomerular nephritis and renal impairment occurs, or first renal impairment occurs in nephritic, but glomerulopathies, morphological more than renal function test is later altered in nephrotic syndrome. All right. So if you see about urine analysis, the nephrotic syndrome, oliguria, hematuria, oliguria, hypertension, and mild edema. These four are important features of nephritic syndrome. So urine in nephritic and will be normal in nephrotic, of course, isn't it? So massive proteinuria in nephrotic. So you'll be mentioning proteinuria more than 3.5 gram per day in nephrotic, while which is not up to that mark in nephritic. Hypertension is feature of nephritic, which we already, here we are talking about. I see. So specific gravity is high in nephritic, normal in nephrotic. Hematuria is high, a diagnostic sign in nephritic. All right. Urea creatinine are remarkably impaired or high in nephritic because primary renal impairment is occurring. All right. Sorry. Renal function test, blood urea, creatinine, sodium, potassium, all are altered or increased in nephritic syndrome. All right. While the most important problem that is present in nephrotic syndrome in biochemical analysis of blood is serum protein can be remarkably low because there is remarkable hyperproteinemia and hyperlipidemia. So lipid profile will be altered, there will be hyperlipidemia. And treatment we will not discuss about the nephritic syndrome. So here you see O and I, you can see this picture. Okay, for O we are denoting albuminemia. If there is hypoalbuminemia, the body massive proteinuria, isn't it? So in urine, massive protein loss, and in the compensatory mechanism, there are fat globulins in the urine instead of RBC cast in nephrotic. In eye, here the eye is presenting the high blood pressure, the cola colored urine. Okay, yes, there is inflammation of the glomeruli. Any question till now? So there are nice charts in different books. Whatever book you are preferring, you have to remember the nephrotic and nephritic syndrome, and you make your own table. You write on the left side nephrotic and nephritic, and you tabulate on the findings you have collected by discussing these two chapters. But basic, you must remember. The basic is in nephritic, I'm again repeating, in nephritic, gross hematuria, mild periorbital edema, hypertension, oliguria. These are 4 very important features of nephritic syndrome, along with altered renal function test, increased blood urea nitrogen, increased serum creatinine, increased blood altered sodium and potassium, hypernatremia and hyperkalemia. They are accessory findings. The first 4 findings are important. Similarly, in the nephrotic side, massive proteinuria. More than you should start nephrotic syndrome with massive protein 5 grams per day. Yes, proteinuria is there. So what will happen? There will be hypoalbuminemia. There is massive edema up to Anasaka is hyperlipidemia. Don't mention hypertension and hematuria in nephrotic syndrome. That is feature of nephritic syndrome. Then you can tabulate the other findings which we just discussed. Okay, you can make your own table. Try to remember it in logical way. Okay, instead of just mugging up, otherwise you can present more points. So that's all about today. Any questions you can ask? Any other people?
No, ma'am.
All right, so you can discuss among yourself. So thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care.